So far what we have seen is we have seen how to get an element by ID, which is what we did here. So we got an element and its value. We also saw how to change the contents of an element. So you have to first capture that element, then set its either attribute or content. So we have seen one method of accessing an element, that is by ID. So but what if you have like this guy, for example. So there are 4 squares, they don't have IDs. You can add ID, it's not a big deal, but there are 4 squares. They currently share something common, and that would be the class. They all have the class square. So if any div has a class square, let's say I want to change it. Change its background color, for example. And there is a button here. So let's write something here. Change the squares. So that's going to be my function. Oops. So I want to get all the divs that have class equal to square. So how do I do that? So get element by ID, for example, if I hover over it, it returns only one element. That is why we are using the ID. ID is a unique element. But if I get it by the class, it is not unique anymore because I have 4 divs with the same class. So in order to get that, we have another method, squares document.get elements by class name. So here you have to remember that that's the class name for me. It's called square. So I'm getting by class name. So if you have to pay attention here to the write-up that says return a HTML collection of elements. So it is more than one element. Returns more than one element. So anytime you get more than one element, that is an array. So squares is an array. So if you want to go through an array, you would use a for loop. We also saw like we can use a for each, but for this particular situation with the DOM, the for each is not defined for elements. Okay, so we can't use for each. So we are going to use a regular for loop. So how much I want to go through each and every square in the array. So I need to know the length of the squares array. So that is going to be how I parse the array. So what do I want to do? I want to get the squares dot background color. Okay, anytime we do the styles, we want to say styles. Okay. So I want to pause here for a second. What is this guy? Is this how we write it in CSS? In the CSS, if you look for background color, it comes like this with a hyphen. But when you use it in the DOM, you really cannot use it this way. You have to forget the hyphen and use camel case. And you can find this in the styles reference for DOM. So I have a link for that also. So if you're trying out something, if it has a hyphen, it doesn't work that way. So border radius would become border, and then no hyphen on R would be uppercase. So that's kind of like box shadow is the same way. So anything that has a hyphen has to be used a little differently when you use it in the DOM. So background color becomes this way. So I'm changing the background color to yellow. So what if I change the border radius to 100 pixel? What happens then? I just want to see. So now what happens? I am taking each and every square, every div that has a class square. So I have captured all the divs that have a class square by using this particular method. Then I'm stepping through that array, and then I'm taking each element of the array and I'm setting its style and background. So if you directly say this without styles, you have to indicate that you are changing the style. This won't work. You have to say styles dot, styles dot background color and border radius. So let's first see how this works. So this is the first time we are parsing through a collection. Okay. So let's say if I refresh the page, so I say Control-Shift-I, open my Google toolbar. It's always advisable to put a breakpoint in that function and step through and make sure that it's working the way you want it to work. So click me, it brings me to this function. So before that, I want to know what's in square. See, it captured get elements by class name square. I say that, and all my squares will have the div squares. So squares, all my elements that have the class square have been captured. So squares.length. What is the squares.length? It's 4. So that is 0, 1, 2, 3. So that is why I'm doing a less than. So I start from 0 and then I keep going. Okay, so I think it's working fine. So let's see if the background color gets set. Oh, it is not happy. Okay, I'm getting an error saying background color is of undefined. Okay, that because I just looked through and I saw that I have a S here, styles, instead of style. So if there is this little error, so if you follow my mouse and go all the way to the top, see how it says an error, you click on it, it'll tell you which line has a problem. So you click on that line, it'll tell you something is wrong with this line, and then you can go to your syntax, reference material, and make sure that it is fixed. Okay, now let's refresh. So I got style now. So let me click on. Okay, so because of my border radius, it changed everything into a circle, which is really what I wanted. So let's try something else. Maybe not 100, 50 pixel. And then let me add some box shadow. 2 pixel, 2 pixel, 2 pixel gray. Just like, so everything on this side is the same as how you would normally do in a CSS. It's just the property name is a little differently written in done. Okay.